Welcome back. My name's Connor,
And I'm Clay.
and this is the PatsCast, the best podcast for everything New England Patriots. Simply put, Clay, these past couple days have been quite crazy. We're recording this on as of March 16th. It's the second day of the free agency period in the NFL, and the Patriots. I guess in New England, since it's been cold, the Patriots front office has been red hot. So, the past 2 days, the Patriots have made 8 signings in total, and
Woo!
yeah, a lot of big names at the gate. We'll go through each and every one of them. But Clay, how do you feel about Bill Belichick being, this aggressive this early in free agency?
I think this is honestly what should have happened last year. Obviously, we have a whole lot more cap space to actually realize our dreams here. But I think at the end of the day, last year we were unsure about how the season was going to go. We were unsure. We had those opt-outs. And I think Belichick was unsure about a rebuild. And
Yeah.
I don't want to count my hens be or count my I never had I don't know how that expression goes. Um, count the chickens before they hatch.
Yep.
But but I think this is how you do a rebuild.
Mhm.
Um,
Not
I
even a
really wasn't
rebuild.
expecting this.
Not even a
Uh,
rebuild, but a reload, as
yeah,
you
for
stated.
real.
Yeah.
Honestly, every position is just getting so much support. Um, we're essentially just using this money in a very, very, very expertly crafted way to bolster only our tight end core, but our wide receivers, our defensive core. Um, and as I was saying earlier, at this point, with the draft, I feel like that's just butter, and that's where we need
Mhm.
to be because in terms of the way that we've been inconsistent with the draft, it is so much better to take the pressure off of Bill Belichick's dog. Um, so I'm happy about these. I'm happy about these free agent pickups.
Mhm.
And I'm excited to see what, if anything, um, else we do because we made an interesting pickup today that was kind of surprising to me.
Mm. Yeah. With all these recent pickups, we might need to um, relook at what the Patriots might do later on this offseason at the draft. But let's go through each and every one of the signings. Let's go with the earliest one, um, arguably the most exciting one. Um,
Hmm.
the New England Patriots signed tight end Jonnu Smith, former Tennessee Titans, to a 4-year, $50 million contract with 31.25 million guaranteed, and he is now the third highest paid tight end in the league.
Makes
Um,
sense. He's the third best tight end in the league.
hmm And as of yesterday, before another pickup that happened earlier this morning, um, I made a post saying that okay, now we have a solid tight end one, to make a huge splash in this offense, to give Cam his reliable guy, those tight ends that he really loves. We talked about, he strived in that 2015 offense with or he thrived in that 2015 offense with Greg Olson, and
Hmm.
Jonnu Smith just gives that offense more leverage to, you know, be more explosive in the red zone and cause more disruption. But yeah, Jonnu Smith with a 4-year contract, getting $12.5 million plus, a ton of money guaranteed per year, and some may argue, along with some of these other signings, that these guys were overpaid, but the Patriots, when they find their guy or when they find their group of guys, they throw a lot of money at them and make sure that they commit to coming to New England. They did the same with Stephon Gilmore years ago, um, when he was released by the Buffalo Bills. And but yeah, like I said, Patriots found their guy in Jonnu Smith, or one of their guys. We'll go on and continue with the other signings. So yeah, After that, or shortly after that, the Patriots signed former Miami Dolphins DT uh, Davon Godchaux. I hope I pronounced that correctly, to a 2-year, $16 million contract with $9 million guaranteed. Um, I've stated before, or we've all stated before, that the Patriots need more help on the defensive line, and Godchaux, former Miami Dolphin, who was kind of outplayed by rookie D tackle Raekwon Davis on the Dolphins. Was expected to become a free agent this year, so the Patriots paid him to a 2-year deal, 16 million, 8 million per year, and yeah, this will help facilitate the needs at defensive line. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I
yeah.
think that the more defensive players we get, the more blockers we get, the easier it's going to be for the ball to get to the offense, and especially with these tight ends, for people like Cam Newton, who's obviously a rushing play quarterback, to have the ability to actually rush,
Mhm.
that's going to make a huge difference.
Mhm. And this also, I mean, if Adam Butler, who's still an impending free agent, Patriots um, could re-sign him within the next couple days, within today and tomorrow. But if they end up letting Adam Butler go, they have a solid replacement in David Godchaux. So, good to see that Bill is targeting um, some positions of need early on in free agency. Next, the most expensive contract is towards former Baltimore Raven outside linebacker Matthew Judon. He signed a 4-year deal worth $56 million and 32 guaranteed. Um, Patriots haven't had a solid outside linebacker since Jamie Collins, but the difference between Jamie Collins and um, Matthew Judon specializes in stopping the run and causing QB pressure. The past 4 seasons he's had um, at least I want to say 8 sacks per season. So he's definitely a good. He definitely does a great job with causing pressure on offensive lines and getting to the quarterback. And Patriots kind of need someone like that after a lackluster year when it came to quarterback pressures. So I'll let you talk about Matt Judon, Clay.
Well, as someone who has not necessarily been paying the closest attention to the Ravens defense, I was interested to see someone like Matt Judon coming off, but the more I looked into it, the more I realized that, especially late into last season, the Ravens defense was kind of where we are right now. Adding players is just butter. And when they have playmakers like Patrick Queen there, they had God, what's the name of the guy he just
Calais
signed
Campbell
with? Yeah,
or
Calais Campbell too. And I was thinking about the guy that they signed halfway through the season.
Yannick
Um,
Ngakoue,
yeah,
who just
Yannick
signed with the
Ngakoue.
Raiders. Yeah.
Right. So I think that the Ravens being able to give up a playmaker like this is really dangerous,
Mhm.
because obviously help on the defense, he's going to be he's not, he's definitely going to bolster what we have. We have a defense that can absolutely make plays, but I think adding consistency, adding someone like Judon, who is he's going to make sacks, he's going to make plays, um, and he has experience in the league. I think even though we paid him a lot, it just sort of reminds me of the kind of money that we're paying Jonnu Smith. Uh, this is somebody who's going to help us, and also somebody who I predicted that the Patriots were going to select Micah Parsons in the draft. I think that this might shake things up when you're going out after a guy like this. I think this, at least for me, and we can go through some of the other picks, and um, you guys can judge for yourself. But I think this means to me that A, we're not going to go for Kyle Pitts,
Mhm.
and B, we're not going to go for Micah Parsons, because we have that powerful offensive linebacker in Matt Judon.
Mhm. Yeah, and we're gonna talk about what we think the Patriots might do in the draft after all these signings. But I agree with both of those takes on, the Patriots probably won't be targeting linebacker now, and they probably won't be targeting tight end. Um, but yeah, Matthew Judon, solid contract. Um, you know, we're gonna see what happens, and hopefully he's as good as he has been with the Baltimore Ravens. The next guy, who I believe is my favorite signing, um,
Hmm.
is the 4-year contract provided to free agent Jalen Mills. He's listed as safety, but he basically can play any position at defensive back. If you look at, I saw this graphic the other day, right after the Patriots signed them, and he's when playing in Philly, his snap percentages are all over the place when it comes to position wise. He's played at free safety, he played at strong safety, he's played at box safety, kind of like how Kyle Duggar played this season, and even Adrian Phillips, and he's even played slot cornerback a lot. So he's very, very versatile, and you know, Jalen Mills kind of reminds me of Adrian Phillips in a way, the guy who led the defense in tackles last season for the Patriots, and I'm excited to have a versatile guy like Mills who can play all over the defense, who can play at cornerback, who can play at safety, who could play at sub linebacker. You know, like I've said before with players like Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt, and um, Isaiah Simmons, players that are versatile are so valued. If they can play
Hmm.
at multiple positions, teams will want that. They'll pay big money for players who can do stuff like that because, you know, it's just a good thing. So adding a guy like Jalen Mills, I'm very excited to see what he brings to the New England defense this year. And we didn't have to pay him that much, honestly. I think 4 years for 24 million is pretty appropriate. Um, looking at his status, he's nicknamed the Green Goblin. At least that's his Instagram
Mm-hmm.
tag, and he's quite he's noticed or not noticed, but he's noted for his dyed green hair while playing in Philly. So who knows? Maybe it switches to a red or a darker blue this season. But like I said, I'm very excited um, to see him in New England. Um,
Absolutely.
and then we had three more signings that happened yesterday. We have a duo of wide receivers and a defensive tackle. One of those wide receivers is Nelson Agholor,
Hmm.
former Las Vegas Raider and former Philadelphia Eagle. Clay, I'll let you talk about Nelson Agholor.
Yeah, so Nelson Aguilar is somebody who was, even though he's a younger guy, he's on the younger side. He was sort of treated like a veteran because of his consistency. Um, he had a relatively solid season in Las Vegas. Um, I think he had about 8 touchdowns, around 48 catches. And he is one of those guys who can be leaned on, although he wasn't considered one of the best, Juju or even like Marvin Jones or one of those higher quality, higher caliber Corey Davis receivers. He's a little bit lower on the list of top free agent wide receivers. I think he's somebody who reminds me a lot of the Patriot way in terms of his ability to just put his head down and make catches, be a leader in the locker room, and be someone who, even though he's been switching team to team, I think he's someone I could see sticking around. And it's sort of reminds me a little bit of the other guy that we signed, Kendrick Bourne, who he's a little bit of a veteran. He's been around for a while, but at the end of the day, he's still a younger guy. He's going to be 26 going into the season, and uh, it's pretty darn good to see a lot of our signings being on uh, the sort of mid to younger side, around 26, 27, 28, 29. Because even though those guys are, not super duper young, they could be around for a long time. And someone like Kendrick Bourne, who, the 49ers wide receiver and especially the running back room is it seems crowded because they have all these playmakers.
Hmm.
And someone like Kendrick Bourne, I think is like Nelson Agholor, a big steal. They're productive wide receivers, and honestly, as much as it's like, oh, we're not signing big names, they're better than I don't want to say they're better than what we have, but they have the potential
Hmm.
of being far better than what we dealt with last season. So if Cam decides to, not throw the ball to his superstar tight end or whoever we have at running back, hand off the ball or run it himself, he has these solid, proven workhorse receivers who are going to be able to step it up, catch some passes, and win some games.
Hmm.
March
Yeah,
the ball down the field.
yeah. One thing I semi disagree with respectfully is the statement that you said about these guys uh, not being better than what we've had this past season. And I'd argue that these guys are two times better, three times better
No,
than
no,
what
no.
we had.
I was trying not to. I guess the statement went a little bit too under what I was trying. They're better than what we have, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm not. I'm not judging you or anything. What was I trying to say? So yeah, I mean Nelson Agholor. I'd say that the Patriots kind of overpaid him. They paid him for 2 years, $22 million with 4 million in incentives. I don't think he's worth that much. I think he's a under 10 million per year receiver, but the Patriots paid him big money. The Patriots, you know, they'll want to see him next year, and who knows, maybe he can be the Demir Bird replacement because Nelson Agholor is speedy. He's good at separating himself. The thing that I'm worried about most, and a lot of NFL meme pages kind of focused on this, is his ability to catch the ball. Um,
Mm.
in Philly, when he played as an Eagle, he was remembered for dropping the ball constantly. We saw a little of that change this past year when he signed with the Las Vegas Raiders, and he was kind of the replacement towards Henry Ruggs for a little bit. But hopefully we see a little bit of Demir Bird, Philip Dorsett. We see that smaller guy, that speedy guy that can just run down the field and convert long third downs and um, catch 30-yard passes down the field and um, separate themselves from defenders. And I believe Nelson Agholor has that potential. The other guy, Kendrick Bourne, signed a 3-year deal worth $22.5 million. Not all of that is guaranteed. I don't want to go into the specifics because one, there it's divided into like 5 different ways, and two, I don't know how it's divided. But yeah, they signed him to a 3-year deal. Kendrick Bourne, former San Fran 49er. He's a prominent route runner. I don't have any NFL comparisons for him because I don't think there's anyone necessarily like him, just because we haven't seen too much of him. He's always been that wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 in San Francisco, and since Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, the duo, the young duo in San Fran, Kendrick Bourne has kind of been you know under the radar, I guess you could say. But I'm happy that Patriots have found a guy that I believe is underrated in Kendrick Bourne, and hopefully we see him as a wide receiver 3 alongside, um, you know, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Agholor, and maybe Edelman plays the slot. Um, but yeah, good depth guy that the Patriots added. Um, a lot of money for him though, but the Patriots went into free agency with a lot of money, so you know it's kind of expected that they pay a little bit extra for their guys. And then yesterday, the last signing of yesterday was a 2-year contract to former New York Jet defensive tackle Henry Anderson.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of people have said that Henry Anderson fits the scheme of New England. He can play defensive tackle, but he can also play on as a defensive end. Um, you know, next season and the season after that, we might see some reminiscence of Lawrence Guy or like John Simon. Edge rushers that are bigger than the uh, Nick Bosa's and Khalil Mack's of the league, but um, guys who can stop the run and kind of stuff running back and not create many lanes for them to run through. So yeah, Henry Anderson to a 2-year deal worth $7 million plus some incentives. But yeah, I really like this pickup. People have said that he fits the scheme, and I agree with it. Um, After comparing him to guys like Lawrence Guy and John Simon, but I'm excited to see what happens. And then um, I the most surprising signing this morning um, was early this morning. Patriots ended up signing the top tight end prospect in free agency, former Los Angeles Charger, Hunter Henry.
There you go.
Um, a guy that Clay and I have been preaching for the Patriots to pick up for a while now. It's kind of surprising that he was the second tight end pickup by the Patriots this offseason, but nevertheless, Patriots now have both the top tight end prospects in this year's free agency market in Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. And, with this, we might see a little bit of the two tight end packages on offense like we saw with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez almost a decade ago. Clay, what are your thoughts about this signing?
I mean, I was a little bit confused when I saw it, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
It's weird that they're paying him less money than Jonnu Smith. It's obviously a different contract, but I don't know. It's just kind of a little bit strange to me that people have sort of rated him as the better prospect, but Jonnu's getting more money. Jonnu was signed first.
Hmm.
Um, I think that this is, I don't want to say like a backup plan to Jonnu Smith, even though they're both fantastic tight ends. But I think what this is doing for New England is essentially saying, yeah, everybody thinks that we need wide receivers, but we also, remember, had one of the worst tight end rooms in the league last season,
And now
and
we have
we
the
don't want
best.
that.
And now we have the best, I'd argue. Um,
Yeah, arguably we do have the best. So,
yeah.
um, I would say that this is a huge statement in terms of Cam Newton, a huge statement in terms of heck, like we love Cam Newton so much. We know he likes his tight ends, and we know he likes his superstars. So
Hmm.
here's two superstars, two tight ends, and if one doesn't work out, have the other. And why not just do an offense where maybe it's two tight ends and one one wide receiver. Go crazy like that because Cam's your running back. So maybe not even slot in a running back. You don't know what's going to happen, you know? I think the Patriots have the ability to be a really diverse and interesting, have a really diverse and interesting offensive scheme next season. When a lot of teams that are guaranteed to win, they rely on their superstars. A lot of Packers drives were basically just hand the ball off to Aaron Jones 5 times and then throw it to Devontae Adams. It works, but I kind of like, that's just boring football to me. I like interesting football.
Hmm.
And what this signing means to me is interesting football, creative playmaking, and doing things the way that the Patriots have done them before. It's a return to uh, old Patriots ways and in a new different environment, us spending more money than we ever have in a long, 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 long time. So we're breaking new ground, but we're doing so in a familiar way. So I'm excited about Hunter Henry, even though I was initially a little bit confused.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember getting that text message this morning from you while I was in class, or while I was in class, from the NFL website. I was like, I had to turn my camera off for like 5 seconds because I was so happy and confused at the same time. But you know, Yeah, like you said, Patriots might be returning back to that 2010, 2011 offensive scheme where they had a two tight end package. And like I've said this plenty of times before, we're in a new phase of the NFL where tight ends are valued just as much as wide receivers are. We have guys in the league like George Kittle, Darren Waller, and soon to be Kyle Pitts who just transform the game at a new level. Guys who are physical, who are fast, who are tall, who are good at run blocking, who can route run like a wide receiver can. Like it's crazy, and I think Patriots, with that two tight end package they had years ago, where they didn't necessarily focus on both guys blocking like other teams did. They knew Rob Gronkowski's strengths. They knew Aaron Hernandez's strengths, and they utilized them, and that's why they were so good. So um, they paid both Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry top dollar at their position. I know you said that Jonnu Smith was paid slightly more, and yeah, he was given more guaranteed money. But if you divvy up the contracts per year, both guys are making $12.5 million per year off their base contracts, and then making about the same money per year in guaranteed. So, well, guaranteed money is, yeah, I I messed that up. But yeah, if you divvy them up, both guys are getting the same amount of money per year. So that just shows that Patriots value both of these guys the same. And both guys are plug and play starters. I expect both of them to be in every offensive, no, not every, but most offensive snaps this season. And I expect a different New England Patriots offense this year. So
100%, and one that actually works and scores
yeah.
touchdowns. So, just really quickly, I wanted to go through the people who we have not re-signed yet, just to have it in the back of everyone's mind super quickly. The guys who we haven't signed yet, or re-signed are David Andrews, Rex Burkhead, Adam Butler, Demir Bird, Shaquille Calhoun, Brandon Copeland, Cody Davis, Jermaine Elia Munar, Nick Folk, Norrin Sky, Brian Hoyer, Dante Moncrief, Jason McCourty, John Simon, and James White. Someone like James White, it looks to be from rumors that we're probably not going to have him. There's people interested in Jason McCourty, and even though I didn't mention him on this list, there are still people interested in N'Keal Harry. However, as of right now, he is still a wide receiver on our team who
Mhm.
could be very good next season.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with N'Keal Harry, if he's going to be used as a trade piece later this offseason. I know three teams have reached out to the Patriots. It's unknown which or who those three teams are. But yeah, like you said before, James White has heard from teams like the Buccaneers. No surprise there, on contracts. But speaking of running backs, I've heard rumors that the Patriots are going after guys like Leonard Fournette and Chris Carson, two of the top free agent running backs in the free agency market. So I don't know what's going to
Hmm.
happen there. I don't expect a long-term deal from either of them. I don't expect an expensive deal after all the mayhem, or not the mayhem, but the frenzy, the free agency frenzy that has happened in New England. But you know, I wouldn't mind either of those guys. Those guys are very talented, and with Sony Michel on his last year of his contract, maybe the Patriots bring in a guy like Chris Carson, or Leonard Fournette, who are both pretty good power backs and fit the Patriots scheme somewhat. But
Hey, they call him Playoff Lenny for a reason.
yeah, no, Leonard Fournette has shown that he is also prominent in the receiving game, which is also valued in a New England offense. So who knows? We'll see. Other news: Joe Thuney, guard from the New England Patriots. Yesterday, Patriots were trying to re-sign him along with the Jets. They kind of gave a counter offer, but the Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs, gave or offered a deal that couldn't be refused and gave Joe Thuney a 5-year, $80 million contract, and he joins the ranks of offensive linemen like Taylor Lewan, and I think he's tied for fifth Um, fifth in the league when it comes to highest paid offensive linemen. So good for Thurney. He's in a system, a winning culture that works with him. He's on a team that has an explosive offense like Kansas City. It's sad that we had to let him go, but um, he was going to be an expensive player either way, and I don't think Patriots had other needs they needed to fill, other positions. So yeah. Other news about linemen: David Andrews is still trying to get signed by the Patriots. Or the Patriots are still trying to sign David Andrews, center, but Miami has been trying to get him as well. So who knows? Um, I want Andrews to come back. If we get him back, then we have a solid front five on the offensive line um, going into the season. So, but who knows? Also, a name that you didn't mention when it came to free agents that haven't been signed yet was J.C. Jackson. Um, he was on the last year of his contract this year with the Patriots capital. I expected a fat payday, 4 or 5 year contract, but instead the Patriots placed their first round tender on J.C. Jackson, meaning if J.C. Jackson agrees to it, he can sign a 1 year deal with the Patriots for um, an extra 10% of his rookie contract. I think for him that'll be like around $4.1 million. But knowing him, he probably wants more. So with the first round tender, it kind of acts as like an antivirus thing. I want to say not an antivirus, but just like an extra thing that may make teams more hesitant when wanting to pick up J.C. Jackson. So if a team has a counter offer to the Patriots 1 year $4.1 million deal, not only will
Mm.
they get J.C. Jackson and have to pay him a lot of money, they're going to have to provide the Patriots with a first round pick. Um, so I don't know what's going to happen there. Patriots still have about $20 million left in capital, or cap space, I should say. Um, so yeah, crazy first two couple of days here in New England. The Patriots went from having one of the worst tight end groups in the league to having arguably the best in both Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. Um, the Patriots kind of um, brought needs on the defense, bringing in guys like David Godchow and Henry Anderson on the defensive line, and then bringing in an explosive playmaker like Matt Judon who can fill that outside linebacker role and really cause havoc on quarterbacks. And then the Patriots also brought in a couple wide receivers and Nelson Agholor and Kendrick Bourne, just to add more depth. But the last thing I want to talk about in this little short is, what do the Patriots do now in the draft after all of these signings?
Yeah, that is a good point.
Hmm.
So I think the Patriots have a couple different options. I think that they lost some interesting players. You talked about Joe Thuney. Terrence Brooks was sort of replaced by um, that safety we signed in, uh, I think Mills, who's
Mills.
versatile. He could
Yep.
play safety. He could play safety. Um, but we also traded Marcus Cannon just because of the fact that he's a lot of money. And if
Hmm.
we lose David Andrews, I think it'd be interesting if we take a offensive tackle prospect.
Hmm.
I don't know who's going to fall to us, but there's some really good offensive tackles in the draft. However, my what I think is going to happen, considering dudes we've lost, excuse me, the dudes who we re-signed, we're essentially just signing defensive linemen and defensive backs. We know Bethel's coming back, Dietrich Wise, thank goodness, is coming back, Carl Davis is coming back. Um, we have all these tight ends. We have some okay wide receivers. The defense is really getting bolstered. I think personally we go for a big wide receiver because we're look
Hmm.
we're looking for a completely perfect playoff team ready to go. Um, uh, I think we go for the wide receiver one. I think
Yep.
we maybe even trade up.
Hmm.
We could see if we can get like a Rashad Bateman at number 15, but that might be a little bit of a reach at number 15. I personally think, we're gonna go crazy, trade up, get a wide receiver one, maybe even a Waddle if they drop down to us, or
Hmm.
um, maybe Devontae Smith, maybe
Maybe
probably
Jamar
not Jamar
Chase.
Chase, but I think that there's some really good wide receivers in this draft, and I think that we could 100% um, get something pretty darn good.
Hmm.
What about you, Connor? What do you think?
I also agree that receiver is our biggest need. We filled the tight end position these past couple days. Um, I also believe that Cam is our guy, but you can't. A quarterback can't perform well without their number one receiver. And yeah, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith um, can be those reliable guys, but I think any team nowadays needs a number one receiver, and I think there's plenty of talent to look at the draft. The question is whether those guys would fall down. And, I don't think Jalen Waddle is going to fall to the Patriots at 15. I also agree that the Patriots could trade up. There's also some questions on whether or not the Patriots are going to trade up and draft a quarterback for Cam Newton to mentor for a year or for the year that he re-signed. Um, but who knows? Um, yeah, if David Andrews doesn't re-sign with the Patriots, the Patriots could draft a guy like Creed Humphrey, who's the best center prospect in the draft from Oklahoma. But he's not expected to go until the second round anyways, so maybe the Patriots can draft him at round two, pick 15. But yeah, I want to see the Patriots trade up and draft a guy like Smith, Waddle, or Chase. Um, I doubt any of those guys are going to fall to 15. Maybe Smith, maybe maybe Waddle. I've heard reports on guys like those slipping, but um, if the Patriots want a number one guy like one of those three, they need to trade up just to have assurance of drafting one of those guys. There's also
100%.
yeah, Stephon Gilmore's on the last year of his contract, so maybe he's a trade piece to a team. Who knows? But yeah, I agree that the Patriots need to look at wide receiver this draft and finally land a number one guy to complete that offense entirely and bring us back to the playoffs. So
All right,
yeah,
I agree.
that's it. That's it for this short. Well, it's not on the short. It's not short because it's on the longer side. But who knows? Maybe this will be a full episode. But yeah, that's that. Patriots had a great couple first days of free agency, and the offense is already looking awesome. So yeah, that's that. Well, we'll see you guys next time.